The off week is over, or the bye week, whatever you want to call it, and your Ohio State Buckeyes are set to return to the football field tomorrow at high noon. Their next opponent, the Iowa Hawkeyes, not the best team in the world, but a fundamentally sound team on defense. We'll discuss what to expect in tomorrow's game, a couple questions we got for you, and score predictions. We get all that today here on Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is a Friday, October 21st in the year 2022, and today's episode is brought to you by Underdog. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with the promo code Locked On and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. You saw his face on the YouTube prior to the intro video. My guy, your guy, our guy, Jeff Hunt of the Off the Ball Network, the Jeff Needs Sports Podcast. He is back with us to help us get ready for tomorrow's matchup with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Jeff, I have seen you on the TikTok. If you become TikTok famous, you got to share some of your secrets with us here at Locked on Buckeyes. Buddy, welcome back.
Hey, it's great to be back, man. Thanks so much. We talked about it pre-show. Again, our pre-show conversations, just like that's the podcasting world. It was fantastic. I'm glad to be back. I'm really, really excited about this game for a numerous amount of reasons. But, we had a great college football weekend last week. We've had, 13 days to prepare for what I call the revenge game. And I'm super excited to be here, and I'm ready to go.
The revenge game, let's not bring that game up from 2017. It's really weird to think about that. But I'm excited for this weekend. Last weekend, we got a phenomenal game. College football fans in general got a phenomenal game between Tennessee and Alabama. And I said it on the Jay Stevens podcast. Jeff, I said, make this statement. When Alabama loses, America wins. College football fans win. And I was so excited that the Crimson Tide got rolled and lost. A kicker of all things, a kicker, a bad kick, a wobbly kick, went to the upright. Those upright goalposts got put into the river in Tennessee. But Alabama lost. America won. Tennessee won. But in that same time period, Ohio State did not play. So Tennessee in the Alabama game was at the perfect time for that team and those two teams to play, to get the attention that they got. 11 million people watched the game at its peak. I believe it was the most watched college football game this season. But the Buckeyes are back on the field, man. I mean, everybody knows when Ohio State is on the field, when they're playing the football, all eyeballs are on the Buckeyes. And I'm excited for this game, but I already know, Jeff, you are too.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. Because you got the week off, so everybody last week got to talk about all these other teams. All you got to do is nitpick, like why Ohio State shouldn't be number one, or the negatives and all that. And I do it too. Like, that's all you have, because they don't get to be on the field. Huge. If you go to my TikTok, you can see an excerpt from the show that I did this week. It's like, did Ohio State really lose in the bye week because everybody else got to boost their stock and everything, and Ohio State just has to sit there and watch. It all evens out in the end, I know, but this is how we do as college football fans. It is such an ebb and flow. It is such an up and down. It's such an emotional world that when your team doesn't play for 1 week, it feels like an entire off season. But what's also good about that, the upside, is when your team doesn't play for a week, they can do so much in practice. The coaches can get so much done in a bye week that it's just like a bowl game. It's like you can literally install offenses, work on defenses, guys get healthy. So bye weeks are ginormous in college football just because of how much the teams can get done in 2 weeks. So I'm excited to see, how the Buckeyes come out Saturday in the second half of the season, when they know now it's time. This is the run that this team is built for. It's time to go now, starting with Iowa.
You mentioned, and people can talk about it, you mentioned in pre-show talking about the Tennessee and Alabama, and I mentioned it as well. Pre-show had a little conversation about ranking number one, things like that. And Philip Jordan on the Jay Stevens podcast came out on Wednesday. He made a great comment, a great point about the playoffs. he said it's too early to discuss playoffs in his mind. It is in my mind as well. Other people take this time period to decide that. But I always say, in September, teams try to figure out who they are as a team. In October, we start to figure out and weed out who the non-contenders are. And then in November, then I think the playoffs conversation can start. The rankings will come out, I believe, next week or the week after, the CFP rankings. So things will get out there. But when it comes to like rankings and stuff like that, Jeff, I think for Ohio State, it's simple. Simply do their job. And in the off week and the bye week, they're able to fine-tune their craft and their skills so that they can do their job better than they have during the first 6 games of the season when they return to the field this weekend. And I think that's key. The Buckeyes are in a particularly odd space for most college football teams. Most of them don't have the luxury of just being able to just do their job and walk into the playoff. They don't. Most of them don't have the luxury of having the talent to simply do their job and to walk into the playoff. But the Buckeyes are that team. And so I don't really talk playoff seeding and stuff like that, especially right now in October. I might start doing that more in November. But we're going to find over the next few weeks, Jeff, we saw Alabama lose. We saw USC lose. Cam Rising rose to the occasion. We're going to see other teams that are in the top 10, top 15 lose. What does that mean? They're losing. One loss can quickly knock you out of the playoff conversation and playoff picture if you don't have that right symbol next to your name. But for the Buckeyes, you have to do your job. And by doing your job, Jeff, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't know if other people are saying it. We said it pre-show. But the Buckeyes, if they simply do their job, that game, Thanksgiving weekend, has a whole lot more juice, has a whole lot more buzz to it. 1 versus 2. I think it's probably going to happen. I think it's been the first time that's happened since the 06 game. I know it was a game. I don't know exactly all the rankings and when JT Barrett was there and Haskins. But if we get 1 versus 2, Ohio State versus a team up north, and the Buckeyes simply do their job, run the table until they get to that weekend, I think that's what the team needs. And that's the motivation I believe the Buckeyes know. Hey, if we do our job, that game is even bigger than what it's already going to be. It's going to hold a whole lot more weight. I'm looking forward to it. I think the Buckeyes, if they simply do their job as they return to the field, that game Thanksgiving weekend against the Wolverines, when you want that, talk about a revenge game this weekend, revenge game that weekend, buddy. We want to talk about 11 million watching Alabama, Tennessee. Think about how many will watch Ohio State versus the Wolverines in Columbus that weekend of that holiday weekend that it is.
Yeah. As of right now, it is set up to be staggering. You know, I said that. I said it. Like, you can go back and listen to my shows. Please do, or listen to the shows. You know, I was on with Jay. I said the same thing at the end of last season, that as soon as I looked at Michigan's schedule, I'm like, they're not losing until, you know, until they're going into the Ohio State game. And the Ohio State, you know, at that point, we thought Notre Dame was a little better. We weren't sure, you know, about, you know, a lot of other stuff. But now, like, it's still the same, the writings on the wall. Am I saying that neither team can lose? Absolutely not. Anything can happen in college football. We just watched last week. But in general, like, these two teams are on a collision course, and both teams are really, really good.
Yes.
And so I definitely think, I don't think that they can be 1 and 2. That's just, you know, me personally, but I do think one of them will be 1 or 2 going into the game, and it won't matter because the winner of that game, you know, is definitely going to the Big Ten championship and should have a great shot at the college football playoffs. So, like, what this season is setting up for, like, we've got Tennessee and Georgia before that. I mean, it just this great college football season. It just keeps going and going and going, and you know, what the Big Ten is building up to could be colossal.
I'm here for it. Colossal. I can't wait to see that matchup or other matchups in the Big Ten Conference. But, Jeff, as the Buckeyes return to the field, injuries have been an issue. There's a long-term injury with Court Williams that he's been nursing, which is why he's been off of the field this year most of the time. You have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who might return tomorrow. There's optimism that that's going to happen. Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson should be in the backfield tomorrow against Iowa. So there's a lot of players that were injured. They're getting healthy. Jordan Hancock, the backup corner, is one of them as well. I think the health of Ohio State right now going into this Iowa game is key and pivotal to future success, as well as going into a game against Penn State when you know it's going to be a hostile environment. You know when the game's going to be kicked off. You know what they're going to bring to the table. You know who James Franklin is. You know who Sean Clifford is. You know who these players are. But that game, Halloween weekend, Jeff, is going to be huge. And it will be bigger if the Buckeye players are still nursing injuries. Because if it's bigger, it means that, Penn State might have a chance to win. I don't think they do, because I think Ohio State's players that were injured, they'll come out against Iowa and really play really sound, fundamental football, Jeff, and show everybody that during the time off, they worked on their craft, and, Jeff, they got better during their downtime.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the injuries have been weird, too, because – we don't know if you have a lesser team, if any of these guys would have played, have not played. I mean, I have no way to know. We don't know what goes on in there. It's been, and we've talked about it on your other shows. Like, this team is built for the stretch run, and then it starts Saturday. Do I think Njigba could have played if they're down by 7, to Rutgers? I think he probably would have figured out a way to get it done, is what I mean. But that's just not that's the luxury you have of being a team like Ohio State, a team like Alabama, who won a game in Arkansas with a backup quarterback. Like, these are things, this is why you build these programs the way you are. But now it's time to, like, we got to get past this, because A, you got to get these guys healthy, these great players healthy, and B, you got to get them to play together. Because if you wait till Penn State, that's what I keep saying about Njigba. It's a big conversation about, will he be back? Like, I kind of want him to be back, not necessarily like if we need him. That's also scares me. We shouldn't need him, but I just want to get him on the field and get him in the mix and figure out, like, the rotation he's going to be in and the formations and all that before the Penn State game, when we know it, like, you're going to need it. Like, that game's going to be tough regardless of, what level you think Penn State's at. So that's a huge part of this. Coming out of this, I think it's time for this team to put everybody out there who's healthy. And if you're not, okay, you're not. Like, let's not count you as the rest of the season. It's time to see who's healthy. Let's figure out, our rotation on both sides of the ball. And we've got it. You got to go play at this point. We can't project that we can take the second 2 quarters of a game off anymore.
Jeff, we don't share notes pre-show throughout the week, but we're on the same page. It's kind of annoyed me hearing people say, you don't need Njigba before the bigger games against Penn State and Michigan. Excuse me, it's just football. Practice speed and practice reps are different than game speed and game reps. You need him out on the field. And you mentioned the rotation. How about just allowing him to get hit? How about just allowing him to cut game speed? How about simply allowing him to catch the ball when there's a corner, a safety over top, a corner underneath, a 1-yard window gap between both players, and he has to make a play? How about those things? I understand the thought and the desire for some people to say, no, save him for the bigger games. But, Jeff, it's football. It's sports. And you want to be out there as much as you can. And you need to be out there to get your feet under you, to get those game reps and get up to game speed as quickly as you can. If he's on a pitch count, okay, cool. Play him anyway. If he's fully healthy, don't save him. Play him, because he needs those reps. He needs those game plays to better be prepared for the bigger games down the road. I don't understand why people keep saying, hold him out, only for Penn State and the team up north. Hold him out. It doesn't make sense to me. Once again, Jeff, you and I are on the same page.
Yeah, as usual. And that's the biggest thing about it. And also, and that's fine. I understand, Jackson, that, it's a bad break or whatever. And, he hasn't been able to play, but let's find out if he can or not. And if he can't, it's a perfectly understandable. It's football. Yeah. It's a tough sport. But then now you're like, okay, now we need to lock in. These are the formations. This is where you're going to play. It's a big deal to these other receivers. Like, that's we're talking, they're making up for, what was it, 1,200 yards, 1,800 yards, whatever crazy stats and Njigba had last year. Like, these guys got to know, like, okay, this is my spot. So when they're calling out plays, like, this is what I do. This is where I go. When they're calling out audibles, you're like, I need to focus. Like, this is big time. This isn't Arkansas State. Like, I need to be able to do this against every team, so that you also got to find out, like, if he can't play, who can,
right.
Who wants to fill that role. And all these guys have stepped up.
Right.
The receiving core is done. We talked about it on our grades. They've done a fantastic job. I got faith in all of them, but they need to know, like, is this what's my position on this team?
Jeff, we got a couple questions here apiece, one for the offense, one for the defense going into this game. I'm going to go and do mine first, which normally isn't my cup of tea, but just going to try to roll on with the show. Jeff, my question for the offense going into this game starts with the 5 guys up front. How well do the tackle, guard, center, guard, tackle combination on the offensive line for Ohio State. How well do they communicate on Saturday against Iowa? Everybody knows Iowa's defense. They have pros at every level, D-line, linebacker, defensive back room. They have pros at every level. They're fundamentally sound. They know your job. They study the film. They know what you're going to do, and they're going to force you to communicate very, very well. Because if you want Stroud to do his thing and Harrison Jr. to make these wild catches, or Ekbuka to get open over the field, over the middle, Julian Fleming to break one tackle, then go to the end zone, or you want Henderson and Williams to get loose in the backfield, the offensive line has to communicate at an elite level. And so I could easily go to Stroud or the running backs. No, I start with the guys up front, because without the guys up front communicating at an elite level, this game will not go the way the Buckeyes want it to go. My question is, how well do those guys communicate up front? Jeff, what's your question for the Ohio State offense going into tomorrow's game?
We're just going to roll. We're on the same page here. Mine was, can Ohio State ground and pound this game out? I know that they can come out and throw the ball over the field versus Iowa, but they had a week to watch this. They had a week to see what Michigan did. Everybody's talking about, Michigan grinds it out and they can run on anybody. I need Ohio State to come out. I need them to run for 4 or 5 yards a carry. I'm hoping for around 200 yards, but I also understand it's going to be a really nice day in Columbus, so Stroud might want to stretch out the arm. But I need to see this team show the country, yes, if we have to, we can run it on anybody, especially Iowa, who, doesn't give up. Iowa doesn't give up a lot of yards.
No,
they gave up less than 200 rushing. They gave up less than 400 yards to Michigan. I need this team to come out and be like, we can run it at will. We can throw it. I don't think we're too concerned about being able to throw it. But I think we're on the same page here. It's a combination of offensive line. I want to see also, can Ohio State figure out how to use these two backs in one game and really demoralize an Iowa defense. That's very important to me. If you sacrifice touchdowns, if you sacrifice time of possession, sacrifice scores, whatever, I need the country to be like, oh, wait, Ohio State can also just run right down our throat.
Jeff, move right on to the defense to keep this train rolling. My thing with the defense is not just one position group, but all 11 guys that are on the field at one time. How fundamentally sound are these players on the field? And I'm not just saying a missed tackle. I mean, my assignment is the B gap. Whoever's there, I have to secure that gap there. All of a sudden, nope. I get sucked down to the A gap. I don't keep containing the B gap. There goes a 10-yard run. Those types of things. Oh, we're running cover 2, but I'm not in cover 2 positioning. And I'm one of the deep safeties. That's what I mean. And so I wonder how fundamentally sound is this team going into tomorrow's game. Everyone knows about the issues Iowa has on the offensive side of the ball. Brian Ferentz, about how he's had issues there at Iowa. Whatever it is, I don't care about what Iowa does. To me, Jeff, this game's all about the Buckeyes. How fun and you have a week off. You didn't play a game last week. You got to enjoy and watch a fun college football Saturday. Get your body healthy, watch some film, work on your craft, work on the fundamentals. One of the fundamentals is doing your job on the field. How fundamentally sound are the Buckeye defenders? All 11 that are on the field at one time, are they a unit, a unified unit, or are they a group of different units on the field? 2 guys, 3 guys, 5 guys, things like that, doing their job. Fundamentals are key in a game against Iowa because they're going to be fundamentally sound. You need to be as well. Jeff, question for the defense. The floor is yours.
Yeah, that's a great one, Jay. Mine is strictly one thing. Can you get to the quarterback? You know where he's going to be. This is time to be like, okay, let's stop messing around here. I need to see 3 sacks, out of this, maybe an interception. I need to see you get to the quarterback, just muffle this. This team scores less than 10 points a game. There is no reason to play around with this. I need you to get to the quarterback. That plain and simple. It's we've talked about it for weeks, Jay. They're so close and they're great pressure and they're filling the gaps and all this. That's great. No, it's time to sack the quarterback, get the punt, go down and score, end this thing because, when you go into Penn State, that's going to translate. You know what I mean? We're not playing a lot of Michael Vicks the rest of the season. So, we need to show that, we need to actually make contact with the quarterback. We need to either make him make a bad throw or we need We need straight up sacks. It's just time. Like we've got the dudes, we've got the recruits, everything's in place. You're telling me Knowles is this mastermind. If you want to have fun for a game, this is the one.
Jeff, little something just popped into my head before we get to our score predictions. Who is one player on the offense and defense that you think will be a major impact player throughout the final 6 games of the regular season, the Big Ten championship, and the playoff? I don't care who you pick, a lineman, quarterback, don't matter. But who is one player on the offense and defense who you believe will be an impact player for the Buckeyes as they return to the field?
I think on offense, I really think Egbuka is going to be the dude. I've told you, I think he's gonna play the most spots on the field. I really feel like he's that guy in the receiving core now that like he's kind of you just can't kind of figure out where he's going to be. He can run every route. He's really good with the ball in his hand, which I still think is going to become a part of this offense. There's nothing to prove it yet, but I really just see like just to throw out an easy example, Deebo Samuel of this team.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Like it's I really think, I know it's an easy one to say. You're talking about a Biletnikoff, candidate, but I feel like by the end of the season, we're going to be like, wow, that was amazing. On defense, I'm going to go with McAllister.
Okay.
He's had a great season, but I think this is where he's going to be like, okay, you guys got this. Knowles knows him really, really well. So I think he's going to be like, okay, now it's time to, because I just noticed in some of the games, like I look out there and I'm like, oh, McAllister's playing corner. I just noticed like, oh, McAllister lined up at corner on that play, or McAllister came across the field and made this play. And I'm like, I think that he's going to be the extension, of Knowles on the field. And he's going to know what's up. He's used to playing, high-powered offenses. And I think that he's going to be the guy that like kind of just takes that next step that we haven't seen yet. They've been kind of, laying low. And I think that's a guy. And I think these corners are going to need some help. And so I think McAllister is going to be the guy that bails them out.
I got a couple, Jeff. One of them on the offensive side of the ball. I was going to go with an offensive lineman, but I'm going to go – I'll stick with it. I think DeJuan Jones is going to be a difference maker. Right tackle. Paris Johnson's on the other side, solidified that side. We talked about it previously, what I think he should have done, what he needed to do to get better. He has done that, lost the weight, and he is playing good football. And I think that Stroud, he knows his backside's covered, his front side covered. Luke Ripple up front as a center has that covered. I think he knows, like, there's his offensive line's going to be secure. But I think DeJuan Jones on the offensive line is going to be a big piece of the pie. And honestly, it's going to move up draft boards, starting with the Penn State game. What can he do? Penn State dominate. What can he do? The team up north dominate that game. So I think DeJuan Jones is that guy. But on defense, I'm going to get with another lineman. I think Tuamaloa is going to blow up, bro. Like, I believe, especially having the week off, and the Big Ten might start calling more holding calls when he's getting held. And that's going to be an effect on those tackles that are blocking him, maybe even the guard or tight end or whoever's guarding him, blocking him. And I do believe that Tuamaloa is going to be a player. And like I said, the numbers don't really show you how well he's played this year, but I think he could have multiple multi-sack games coming up over the next few weeks. And the game against Iowa was a great time to start that trend. Jeff, score prediction, I'll give mine. Would love to hear yours. I got 45-6. I said before the season started, I said I thought the Buckeyes would average 42 points per game. I think they average 47 to 48 points a game right now. I understand with an average, sometimes an average you have to have some games or points that are less than said average to average things out. But I still think they'll have more than the 42 points per game I predicted they would have going into the season. Iowa's defense does not give up a lot of points. And I think this will be a wake-up call for the rest of the Big Ten, rest of the country. Y'all had your Tennessee honeymoon period. It's over. Ohio State's back on the field. And a team in Iowa that does not give up points is very stingy on defense. They can't do anything to stop Ohio State. 45 points. I think that the 6 points come. I think the Iowa offense Iowa field goal team, they kick a long field goal, like a 40, 42-plus yard field goal in the first half, and I think the other 3 points come when the backups are on the field for both teams. I know the field goal there, 45-6. That's what I think is going to happen. Jeff, where are you with the score prediction for the Iowa game?
So I really thought about it. everybody don't kill me. I went with 37-13 Bucks.
Okay.
And mainly because here's the thing about 37. I know that sounds low for the Buckeyes. That's 10 more points than anybody scored against Iowa this year.
Yes, exactly.
And I also think that this is one of these games that Iowa is going to be determined to keep the score down, as to where, like, they may run a 8-play 40-yard drive and run 5 minutes off the clock. And I don't think at this point Day needs to come out and hurry it up and take the big shots. If things are going smooth in the run game and the dink and dunk, he'll just take the points and go. Like, he'll play. So I just don't think there's a need to run it up. And I think Iowa, it's the same way. I think there's going to be a fluky score in there, and then I think some field goals. I know 13 for Iowa, like, they would take that. I just think that I really think Iowa's going to take the air out of the ball, but we're still talking about a 24-point victory over, a good defense. So, like, I'll accept that, but that's how I feel. I know how I want it to go because we owe them one from a few years ago, but man, at midseason football, you just don't know.
Jeff Hunt, it's fun having you back on the show. The people love you. I love having you on. If you could let everyone know they can follow you on Twitter, where they can follow you on the TikTok, and where they can follow all the shows you host, and some great things going on over at the Off the Ball Network as well.
Oh, yeah. Thanks a lot, Jay. Yeah, you can see me, anywhere at JHunt006 on Twitter. I try to take a lot of my shows and make segments for TikTok. So if you want to go check out J Hunt Podcast over there, there's a lot of shows just like this. I take some excerpts and try to get some, hot takes and, so forth. And then, of course, over at Off the Ball Network, the NBA season just started. The content's flying. I mean, we got the top 50 list. We got breakdowns every night. We got several shows. So a lot of things going on right now. And then you can always find me, the Buckeye Remix, if you want to hear a crazy irrational fan, the week after a game talk about, why a 50-point win's not good enough. I'm your guy. So you can do all that. And again, thank Locked On Network and Jay for having me on.
And guys, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. I'm also on the TikTok. Recently got over there taking clips from Locked On Buckeyes and the Jay Stevens podcast, putting them on the TikTok. If you want to hear someone's NBA prediction about who's going to win the NBA championship, go ahead and check that out. It's actually a team that's never won a championship or a ring in the NBA ever in their existence. So go ahead and check that one out. I don't believe they've won one, but go back and check that out. Also, guys, Locked On Buckeyes postcast live after tomorrow's game will be live at the conclusion of the game against Iowa. 10 to 15 minutes, not a lot of your time, but it will be live exclusively and only on the YouTube channel for Locked On Buckeyes. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Buckeyes, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live, or when literally the postcast starts and goes live. Go ahead and hit that bell for that notification as well. Jeff, 37-13. Myself, 45-6. We both have a Buckeyes win. We both have the Buckeyes remaining undefeated. We both look to see the Buckeyes play a phenomenal game at high noon, on Big Noon, with Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt. First time they call on the game. I'm excited to have Gus in the shoe for this one. And Jeff, I'm sure you are too. Jeff, we're out of here. Any final words or comments quickly? I know we don't do this, but I know we talked a lot. You got any more words to get out?
No, that's it. Just, man, like, Iowa, you've had this coming. You enjoyed it. We didn't forget. Ryan Day was there. It left a bad taste in his mouth. That was one of his first seasons at Ohio State. So be careful what you wish for. That's all I would say.
That's all he'll say. I will not add to that. Guys, we're out of here for the day. Jeff, we got to continue a trend. OH?
IO, baby.